How's it, guys? Welcome back to Mike Morton Talks Football. Today we have an incredible guest, someone that I worked with a very long time ago at AmaZulu Football Club. At that stage, he was just an analyst, and now he's gone on into the continent, assistant coach at Raja Casablanca, and they did the double last year, and now he's moved on to Tanzania, to Simba, and doing amazing things there. 2 points off the top with 2 games in hand. Darian, please feel welcome here at the Mike Morton Talks Football podcast, mate. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, Mike, time flies. We've got many memories that we shared at the good old Usutu, so I'm sure we've got a lot to share.
Yeah, man. How are things going? How are you finding Tanzania? Give us a little bit of insight into what's happening there at the moment.
Yeah, incredible project, exciting project that we've got here. Beginning of the season, we started with 15 new players, so it's a new squad. It's a young squad, but very excited to be at a big club. Yeah, we came in a little bit late in the preseason, so a lot of the players had been signed already, but credit to the recruitment, really, really good young players, a lot of potential in all of them. So yeah, it was a little bit of a different situation to come into. We added a goalkeeper and a striker, along with the club's recruitment model. So it's been a good mesh of players coming together, but obviously it takes time in building the cohesion in the team, and that's what we're still a little bit after at the moment. But coming into January, looking into, of course, now it's just about if there are players that can add to the quality that we already have, because we've got quite a decent squad, good players that have come together in a short period of time. So now it's just about what else can improve the squad. Big clubs are always looking for players that can do that. But yeah, Simba's been an incredible journey so far. We're in Algeria at the moment. We're just about to play Constantine in the away match of Confederations Cup. Also a competition that brings a lot of excitement, traveling the globe, facing all these big teams. So this is also part of the journey that's so exciting,
Yeah. When you guys are looking for players now, would you be looking in South Africa at all?
Yeah, of course. South Africa's a big league. We know the quality that the league has. Of course, it's just about finding the right player, whether it's South African, whether it's Nigerian, whether it's whatever. It's about finding the right player that fits our game model, that fits the philosophy of the club that we have. So yeah, all the markets are open.
What's the today?
At the moment, we've got 12, and that's the limit that we're allowed. So quite a large limit.
12?
Yeah.
12 partners. Wow. Okay. What have you made of, obviously you guys have now gone over, you went over with Joseph, obviously, to Raja. Rulani's over there. Pitso's obviously had success on the continent now as well. What do you make of this trend of South African coaches leaving the country? I think it's incredible for South African football, broadening our horizons, learning other countries, learning about other countries, other football, other tactics. What have you made of this modern trend of coaches leaving South Africa?
Yeah, I think South African coaches are more than good enough to coach on the continent. It's just it's about obviously the opportunity, but it's also about us as South Africans pushing ourselves more, going out, networking. That's part of the game, to be able to get these opportunities, having the right qualifications, because minimum standards across Africa, across European standards is UEFA A's, it's CAF A's, it's UEFA Pro licenses. So these barriers we have to overcome. That's something that the TD in South Africa is doing a really good work with. Walter Steenbok has brought in a lot of these CAF A licenses at the moment. It's good for our coaches. We missed that for a long period of time, Mike. Like, there was a substantial amount of years where South African coaches had no opportunities to learn. So it's good to see from afar that things are going well in that way. Because also, as South Africans, the costs to get a UEFA A license, to get a UEFA Pro license are substantial, So that's one route that is a little bit of a stumbling block. But what
does it cost to get a UEFA A license?
UEFA A license, it's about £6,500, plus flights, plus accommodation.
150,000 rand.
Yeah. So you can see how that limits a lot of coaches that might not have access to those funds, So, that's one of the stumbling blocks that are there. And I think if you think of working in Europe...
You currently doing your UEFA... Yeah, you're doing your UEFA at the moment, eh?
Yeah. I've just come back from that first block that we had. I've got another block to do next April, and then hopefully that's out of the way. Fadlu's just done his pro license last year, but you can see how long the journey takes, right? It's not like starting your coaching and next year you've got a pro license. It doesn't work like that. You have to invest hours. You have to have these funds as well, investor funds. If your club is not paying out that money, then it's a big amount of money that you have to save up.
Yeah, and at these courses, I mean, Are you actually picking up things, or are you just literally doing it to get the piece of paper, or is it a networking opportunity, or are you actually picking up like skills and tactical know-how and whatever at these courses? What's the main benefit of doing them?
I wouldn't say like tactical know-how, but I would say like to give your coaching, to give your kind of structure. They're really good at structuring your coaching. They're really good at giving yourself a framework to work off of. I'm doing my UEFA A license with the Welsh FA, and they are really big proponents of not putting all the coaches down the same route and saying this is the solution to football. They are very open-minded. They are very much about mentoring. They're very much about you having your own philosophy and how they can help to structure that philosophy. So I think like that's the main thing, is that they're really good at structuring your philosophy. The networking, of course, what you learn from bringing coaches from around the globe and having discussions on football and seeing how a lot of what we face is the same challenges. And then, of course, Africa has its unique challenges. There are things that we face that the rest of the world don't face. We have those things to talk about as well. But the courses are really good in terms of giving us that structure. Also like periodization, bringing that sort of things in and having that real good foundation to your coaching. So I'd say, yeah, really, really, really good in that.
Yeah. So you speak about challenges in Africa. I'd like to know when you first obviously made the move abroad to go to Raja, one of the biggest clubs in Africa. What was that first experience like? Can you tell me a little bit about how that came about in the first place?
Of course, we worked with Joe for 2 seasons at Pirates. So we had a really successful period with him, winning the MTN 8 as well. It was Pirates' first trophy for a while, so it was quite a big achievement with us at the time. And you know how football is. You have to be honest. You have to do good work. You always keep in touch with your network. So at the end of that season, Joe called us and said, would we like to come along? Myself, Coach Fadlu. Our analyst at the time at Maritzburg came with, Moise. And yeah, the experience at Raja, incredible. Just walking through the door, you know, the size of the club, the size of the fans, just unbelievable. The culture there, unbelievable. But obviously you're stepping into an environment where it's a French-Arabic environment. So that's the language that's predominantly used. Most speak French to a degree and predominantly Arabic. So you'll have a few in your squad that speak English. But I think that puts the onus on us. It's the onus on us to be able to overcome that barrier. That was something that was probably my biggest takeout, is that in South African coaches, yes, we have multicultural backgrounds, we have multicultural environments within our clubs, but probably we don't have as big of a language barrier between our players. Having worked in South Africa so many years, but going into a culture where you have to work in a different language, that was probably like the biggest stumbling block to overcome. But okay, it took a few dives into the deep end, and okay, you eventually find yourself using all the words within that, but it takes a level of preparation. It takes a level of studying that, you're in a classroom studying that French, that's what, to be able to overcome these, eventually you're able to run a few training sessions in French, every now and then. So that was a really
wow.
big
So you actually, wow, that's incredible. So did you have translators in the beginning, or were you straight away just thrown into the deep end, like trying to,
the best way
is
being thrown into the deep end. That's what I found. Like, I think we went on a preseason in Dubai, in Saudi, and we played against some massive teams there as well. Al Nassr, we played against Ronaldo, we played against all these teams. And coming back from that cup was when I learned that just being thrown in and taking these sessions by yourself, I took a group of some players and taking these training sessions of just not having an English language to fall back on, then just being able to take it in French was the best opportunity for me. So it's there where you have to find, with your limited vocabulary, you only know maybe 60, 70 words, but those 60, 70 words have to get you through the session. So that was the best way. We also had an analyst working with us who could speak French. The coach brought as well, Coach Joe. So he was our main translator. Our goalkeeper coach was fluent in French and English. Within our technical team, we had enough people to translate as well. Our conditioning coach in the end also Arabic. So we were able to touch on everyone within the squad. But like I said, the onus is definitely on you. You're a foreigner in the country. We are the plumbers now, Mike. We were the plumbers. So the onus was on us to overcome it. Definitely not. So look, the onus is on you. When you're outside your country, you have to go over and above halfway. The onus is on you to overcome those stuff.
Yeah, but the mechanics, you guys did the work. I mean, geez, you guys had an incredible season. I remember following, you were chatting towards the back end of last season and was tight, and you got it over the line and got the cup as well, double. Like, how was that? I saw some of the images, the videos of just the reactions from the fans and everything. It was incredible. Can you talk me through those like final month or two, getting all that over the line?
Yeah, sure, Mike. Indescribable, mate. Like, just, it felt like destiny at a certain moment, you know, those final 13 games. I think we won 13 in a row, excluding the cup. So you're walking onto the field with the players, and before the whistle even blows, you're counting it as a win, you know, because the momentum is so much with the team. It was just, you could just feel we were winning the game before we even stepped on the field. Incredible couple of months going down to it, but okay, Farabat was matching us every win. We would go check the phones after the game or even at halftime, and they're doing the same on the other side. So we were neck and neck going down to it. Obviously, Coach Nabi, that's at Chiefs now. Yeah, they did an incredible season as well, you know, but we finally managed to take it in the end. This is just something I haven't experienced in South Africa. It's just the mentality of the players that we had. Just unbelievable. Sometimes an individual performance to win a game, sometimes an individual who's just not accepting that this is not a win today. It's also a level of professionalism that we experienced in those months that I haven't experienced before in terms of recovery, nutrition, in terms of preparation for matches. The players were just at another level in terms of wanting to win and get it over the line. They were willing to sacrifice anything. They were willing to meet whatever we demanded of them. And that's something.
You're giving a lot of credit there to the players, but at the end of the day, you guys create the environment, the coaching team and your group there. Like, yes, the players have to follow the line and they have to bring themselves to the party here, but like a lot of the time, the culture, because like you're saying, like it's not necessarily what you'd experience in South Africa, but are we creating the right environment for the guys to have that kind of success? You guys created that environment there, and as a result, the guys followed the line. And
I think a lot of the times, if I think of a South African environment, I think a lot of the times the clubs are reluctant to give a lot of responsibility and power to players. I think you always hear this player power as a concern in club environments. But the more I've learned, the more I've seen in the successful period that I've been through in football, the best environments that I've worked in, the most successful environments that I've worked in is when the players have ownership of the squad, when the players really have accountability to each other in the squad. We have it at Simba now at the moment as well, where we have a group of leaders who really hold the group, the greater group accountable for things. They manage a lot of problems before it even comes towards us. These guys have a real big ownership on preparation for matches. They have a real big ownership on performance. I think that's maybe something where the culture in South Africa and just the South African environment limits that a lot in terms of lifestyle problems, in terms of, you know, I see how we treat the players a little bit like children at times, you know, and if you treat people like children, you get children, you know. And what we want is leaders.
It's always it's a chicken or the egg scenario. It's like, so we haven't covered ourselves in glory. Players have made bad choices. They've done bad things. We all heard the bad stories. So now nobody trusts us. So they don't give us any authority or any power. But then because nobody ever gives us power or authority, it's like, well, then when you tell me I can't go out, I'm going to sneak out the back door. And like, so it is like, I understand, like, it is tough. I mean, where do you start? Do you give all the power and just hope for the best and trust your players and then expect them to act like grown men? Or, yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
But it's also, that's where like recruitment and squad planning and all of this takes something out of it. Because if you have the right squad, if you have the right people, then it's easier to manage. I'm not saying every player is in every environment that I've worked in is, you know, golden boys. They don't go out. Yes, but there has to be the right amount of characters in the squad that know why you are there. They have a purpose. Again, this is what you're saying. Like, you have to create that purpose for the players to feel that they are responsible for. Before you get them acting in that certain way, you have to create that environment. That's something that I give the credit to Coach Joe a lot at what he did at Raja. He was able to bring the group towards a vision. And that's something that I learned that is so important, is the repetition of that vision, you know, having that constant reminder that, guys, we are here for this purpose, you know, and reiterating that every now and then, so that wherever you were within any point in the building, any person could tell you what the vision was for that season, no matter what, you know. And that's so important, because you're coming, you know, football, it's it's a day-to-day job, right? And it can get repetitive. It can get that, every day is training, every day is recovery, every day is this. But as long as you have that greater vision, as long as that vision is broken down into steps, how we're going to achieve it, then it becomes really something positive. Then it becomes really something that you have that buy-in from the collective, and everybody sees where they fit in within that process. That's how you create that ownership within the environment. So that was,
Yeah.
Raja was really something unbelievable, mate. It was just,
Yeah. Can you tell me about the celebrations? Because obviously I saw some stuff like in the stadium, but what was it like in the city? What was it like? Like, can you walk in the streets? It looked like, I mean, it looked incredible.
Casablanca is obviously a unique city. Two massive rivals within the same city. A little bit like Pirates and Chiefs in that way. I mean, that the support is divided amongst the country for those two clubs. Wherever you walk, the Rajawis, you hear them, and if you don't see if it's not the Rajawi that recognizes you, then it's a Widadi that recognizes you. And, one or the other knows who you are and why you are there. So depending on your results is how safe you are, and depending on your results is how happy you are walking the streets, And we saw that in our time there because we had a difficult time. So for all the coaches, for all the players in that time, it's like training and go to your house. That's it, because the fans are so passionate about their club. But unbelievable, just the fans, how welcoming the culture is of Moroccan people. Like from day one, welcoming the country. You'd never experience something like this in your life. Any stranger in the street would be ready to take you with open arms into their house, for a meal or for whatever you need. It's provided for you.
Yeah. And that derby between the two clubs, is that, when you think about like Orlando Pirates, Kaizer Chiefs, it's like a friendly derby, like everyone mixes, whatever. When you talk about that rivalry, do you guys sit together or is it like separated on different sides of the stadium?
Yeah. You could never experience that in Morocco. And that's not only with the Wydad. There's a couple of other teams that the rivalry is so intense, like with FAR, we experienced it because of the culture of Raja, the Kurvasud, the tifos that they have, the aggression that they have, the passion that they have towards their team. It's just nothing I've ever seen before, mate. I think in world football, everybody knows Raja. Like, as I said to you, when I went for this UEFA courses overseas, when you speak to the coaches there, everybody knows Raja's fans. Everybody knows the amount of support that you get there. So, it even comes to a point where certain away matches, they ban the fans from traveling. Before the matches happened, the fans are not allowed to travel. The stadium is on lockdown because they know, like, if the Raja fans come, it's a problem. If the Raja fans come, and this is when we're in a good period. This is in a period of success, But the fans are the football just does something to them, and but it was an incredible experience for the fans. They are there. It's to have that level of support where it's so intimidating for any opposition to play against us. It's so intimidating. And I'm sure, we felt that the previous season we actually played against Raja with Pirates a couple of seasons ago in the Confed. We played them in the quarterfinal, and you could feel that. You could feel the intensity in the city. You could feel it was just coming out of COVID time, so there was some restrictions on the stadium, but you can feel in the city. You can feel how well they are supported. So just incredible. Like, it's nothing. I don't think the South African people have realized the intensity of the support that's there. And this is a little bit of a strength that they have in North Africa.
Yeah. Then I want to ask you, I mean, obviously you guys do the double, and I'm assuming loved by every single person in Casablanca that supports Raja. And then you guys up and leave, and Joseph goes off his direction. You and Fadlu go another direction. Like, what happened there?
A football decision that was probably put in place before us even joining the club. Joe knew that in recruiting Fadlu, he was recruiting a head coach to be his assistant. So even while Fadlu was working at Pirates, everybody knows Fadlu as a head coach. But okay, on his journey, he decided to take these steps to work as an assistant in certain roles, in certain clubs. So I think for us, maybe it looks a little bit surprising from the outside, but I think for us, it was always known within the technical team that once the right opportunity came for Fadlu to go as a head coach, that it would happen again. I think for myself, Joe knew as well that I'm loyal to Fadlu, and that I see that as my greatest learning opportunities to work with Coach Fadlu. Just an unbelievable coach, Mike. Unbelievable coach. Has so much passion for the game. For me, it's a guy that I learn from every day, just in terms of planning trainings, in terms of managing situations, just on another level. So still learning every single day.
You know that I when I first joined Maritzburg, he was playing up front for Maritzburg. He was obviously the captain. I mean, crazy guy. Like, I'll never forget, there was one game he was playing. I think I was sitting on the bench. Like, he literally walked over to the bench and his nose was like this, and he just came there and he was like, snapped it back into place, and then like ran back onto the field and had like a limp because his one ankle finished.
Yeah,
like,
the limp is still there.
Like, yeah, as hard as nails. And then obviously when Ernst came in, Ernst like transitioned him out of that, and then I was obviously there as he started his coaching journey as well. So it was incredible, like, because I was literally I was sitting next to him in the dressing room as like my mate, and then the next day as he became a coach, he was like, bang, like, there we go. Like, I was like, how's it, Fadlu? He's like, it's like, okay, there we go. He's made the distinction. He's like, this is the journey he's on, and it's been incredible to see what he's done. It's been amazing.
Well, look at him now, like one of the only South Africans with a pro license, UEFA pro license, at Moscow, it's incredible things, That's what I'm saying. The world of football is so small, Mike. The world of football is really so small. So his future is unlimited. Let's see.
Yeah. You obviously, I know you're quite close to Rulani as well. Did he call you at all when he was making his decision to come to Wydad? What kind of advice would you have given him coming in there? He's obviously doing better than they were doing last season, looks like, but still looks like a tough situation.
Yeah, no, it's obviously having worked with Rulani for a few seasons at Pirates. He takes with him also Coach Badella with him, who we're quite close with as well. They're doing a really good job now. A really difficult environment that they step into, just because of it's such a different culture to anything that we would have known before. We also know how volatile the North African market is. So especially out of these big clubs, Wydad, Raja, Esperance, we know these clubs, couple of games and you're already under pressure. So what I think that he's managed really, really well is he's got a similar situation to what we have at Simba, a ton of new players. So what's difficult about that is creating now cohesion in the team, creating synergy amongst the players, creating a culture like we spoke about before, because now you've got a bunch of new players and you have to set the standards and you have to teach them about what is good for our culture and how do they complement the new players that they're working with. And he's done that really well. You see it in the last performances. Someone like Mubarak, the number 6 that he plays with, he was a Raja player last season. Really, really good player. And you see how Mubarak is fitting into the team now and starting to get a bit more fluid within that setup. So, that the biggest thing for them is about working with a new culture, working with existing staff that's there, because you have to have everyone on board, like what we had at Raja. So can only wish him the best. I didn't see what the Club World Cup draw was tonight. I know it was just a few hours.
I think he's up against Pep. They got City.
Well, you know how he'll feel about that. So I'm sure he'll be over the moon for that.
Yeah, epic. So I look forward to that. I haven't seen the rest of the draw, but that is one that I saw before we got onto the stream, that Rulani against Pep.
Incredible.
Yeah, epic. Yeah. Then I want to ask you a bit, obviously you were up against Nabi last year. I think the South African fans would like to know a little bit about what his team offered on that side, and his reputation, I think, obviously precedes himself, but you would have had maybe going up against him and having to do an analysis for playing against his type of teams.
Yeah.
What do you think he brings to Chiefs?
Really well organized coach. Like, his teams are really well coached. You can see it from any phase of the game that you look into. The team really has a clear identity of what they're trying to do that in that phase of the game. So you can see it's somebody that works throughout the team to improve them. They were an extremely physical side in Farabat. They were able to dominate a lot of their opponents just based on their physicality. Their player of the season in Morocco was their captain, Freeman. And he was a midfielder that scored really a lot of goals via set pieces with the penalties that they were given. Really, they were not a team that is going to sit and have a lot of ball possession, maybe like a Rulani type of team that sit and create a lot of possession and long chains of possession. Really a team that is direct, but not direct in the sense of playing long balls, but direct in terms of vertical possession. So really, really tricky team for teams to play against. Wingers that can dribble, wingers that can run in behind, fullbacks that can invert as well. So fullbacks that can come inside, fullbacks that can go in wide areas to cross. So really, it was a detailed team, one of the best teams that played in Morocco that season. Definitely, I think Nabi is someone that will improve Chiefs, because his level of coaching will be there, really, really organized, and he'll be able to bring that to Chiefs and get them to a really, really high level in terms of their tactical fluidity as well.
How closely do you follow South African football now that you're on that side?
Yeah, every chance we get to see a game, we'll watch. We discuss the games as well amongst our technical team. We've got a large amount of South Africans in the technical team at the moment as well. Coach Rido, that's been throughout the country. Chip Sundowns as a conditioning coach. He's now Mali's national team coach while he works with us. We've got Darrell Butler, who's our bio. He was at Swallows, and he has a lot of stories to tell us of his time there and experience to share with us. So we've got Muiz as well, our analyst I mentioned before. He's been throughout the country, Free State before, Maritzburg before, Bloem before. So he's got a lot of experience as well. So yeah, as South Africans, we've got Wayne Sanderlands as well. I can't forget to mention him. Good old Wayne. So Wayne's got a lot of experience as well. Incredible goalkeeper coach. What a huge potential he has as a coach as well, in his own right. Yeah, we've got so many South Africans in the team. We follow the game all the time.
If you have been following closely, I wanted to actually, pick your brain on what you've made of the new Sundowns. Obviously, Rulani left a very distinctive style. Rulani very much plays through the middle, doesn't really like too much width, overloads the center, possession-based. And Mangoba's come in and turned it into, like you speak with Nabi, very much a vertical team, trying to play more direct balls. They create like a million chances in a game. They're a little bit more open, but very, very dangerous. What have you made in that change between the two?
I think interesting maybe as well is to point out the rotations that Mangoba has been using. So them and the technical team. So really sharing minutes around the squad as well. And not overloading the team too much in certain positions. So that's been quite interesting as well. I mean, they've got so much depth. So to use the players is something that you have to do as well. But yeah, Sundowns will always be competitive. Sundowns will always be just with the level of player that they have available to them. But of course, there's some changes from the previous style that they had. And no one can say whether it's the right changes or the wrong changes. We'll see at the end of the season. I mean, it's just a different style of play. And I'm sure that in whatever they'll do, they'll be dangerous, because of the level of quality that they have and the level of preparation as well. It's not just Mangoba just throwing it tactics on the table. No, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. Same level of highly detailed work throughout the club. So it's definitely something that you have to respect.
Yeah. No, personally, I mean, sometimes like, I don't know, it's just maybe it's just me, but like sometimes when I watch like say City or I watch Rulani, a team that's so dominant, like 70% possession, 80% possession, like I don't enjoy watching it that much. There's obviously the detail and it is enjoyable, the tactical side of the things, but like I actually enjoy watching Mangoba's teams more because it's like that Jurgen Klopp heavy metal, like we go forward. I mean, there's been times where their players have tried to slow it down and maybe like try to do a little trick, and he's just like, no, we want to score, win that 3-0 up. He's got them really, I like that. So I hope it works out because it's enjoyable to watch.
But you would say that as a Liverpool fan, Mike. What do you make of Arne Slot? What do you make of the change between Klopp and Slot?
Yeah, interesting, because he's actually taken away a bit of that chaos. I think that's actually been his main strength, is he's taken away the chaos of Jurgen Klopp's football, which we all loved. It was the most entertaining thing in the world, but we could throw away points in strange situations, whereas he's brought a lot of calm where he doesn't want the Liverpool team to progress. If it's not necessary, he invites the press, lets us play through. It's obviously been Gravenberch and McAllister have been a revelation. You could never have told anybody that Ryan Gravenberch would be the best centre midfielder in the league at the beginning of the season. He's, I think, one of the main reasons of the success of the team so far. And then obviously the Egyptian king.
But you could say that that's quite similar, right? Between Sundowns and Liverpool, contrasting styles with a new coach coming in. So I think you see a little bit of similarities between the two.
Yeah. Obviously now South Africa's Bafana, we've qualified AFCON in Morocco. That's your home ground now. What do you make of Bafana's chances in that AFCON?
Yeah, I think we saw it in the previous competition, right? How effective the team can be, how resolute the team can be. I think that's probably one of the main components that I would say of our new look Bafana, is that we are resolute, we are physical, we are energetic. So I think with a couple of players that we've got coming through now, especially the young players, really exciting as well. Maybe the difference that we'll have now is that previously you enter the competition as a dark horse, as an unknown Bafana that's come through again. And now we'll have a lot more preparation going into the games. Maybe some adjustments from opposition when maybe before they thought that they could dominate us and it would be them having possession and overloading us, where now it might be a little bit more of zone 2 blocks and the less pressure. And how will we adjust now to having to be the initiator in games? So that might have to happen now as part of our preparation going into the tournament. Are we able to be the initiators of the game? So that'll be interesting to see. How do we manage that? And then it's just about
I think with Sundown, I mean, the Bafana team is like 8 Sundowns players, and I suppose Sundowns players, even on the continent now, when they go to North Africa, when they go to Al Ahly are playing a low block against like a Sundowns team. That's the reality now. I mean, a lot of these guys are now used to carrying the emphasis of the game, having to guys like Tebza having to find a pass, having to break down a low block. So I think that's also holds that the Bafana in good stead if that is the situation.
But of course, it's like one of the most difficult things in football, right? Is to break down a low block. Like I think any coach can attest to that. Any player can attest to that. Is like breaking down a really well-coached block is always the threat is that you get 1 or 2 things wrong in any moment and then you're running back 60, 70 meters. So that's the main thing is now it's going to be how can we limit transitions against these type of teams and make sure that we're creating chances, but also limiting these transitions. So it's going to be really interesting to see. But I think if we speak about like a wealth of talent that we're going to go to the tournament with, I think that's clear to see and clear to feel from every South African. I mean, we've seen the scenes of how Bafana is playing in Cape Town, sold out Cape Town Stadium, how they're playing in Bloem, and it's a sold out stadium. So you can feel it in the country. There's definitely an optimism around Bafana at the moment.
Yeah. No, it is good. I was at that Cape Town game. It's one of the best experiences and crowds. Obviously, it wasn't a great against the most competitive team, but it was, South Africans are excited. I know that you are one of the more obsessed guys when it comes to football, and I think that has to be the case if you want to be serious about coaching. And I know that that's probably why I could never head into that direction, just the level of obsession you have to have. I'll say this to a lot of people. I think like the problem with me is that if I had to go into coaching, I know I wouldn't be able to give it the watch football for 17 hours a day like I know that some football coaches do, and then I wouldn't feel like I'd be doing a disservice to coaching basically. So when I looked at guys like yourself, at guys like Ernst, at guys like Stuart Baxter, it's like these guys have got like satellites that give them games from every continent in the world, and they're watching football 18 hours a day. Like, how much time do you spend watching football every day?
Yeah, it's 24/7, like you said. It's like even from the minute you wake up, it's football, till the wee hours of the morning, it's football, because that's, like you said, the level of preparation. If we're not watching the opposition of our next opponents, then we're watching our previous game and making corrections on that. If we're not watching wide angles of other games to get the latest trends, ideas for set pieces, if it's not that, then it's training that we have to watch, or it's planning training, or it's periodization for what we're going to be doing in 2-3 months time, and that level of preparation. So it's just a lifestyle, Mike. It's not like once you sign up for it, like you obviously understand the environment that it takes, but it's just a lifestyle that you live. Hopefully you have the family and the support network that can manage it, because it's not an easy lifestyle in any terms, because it's 24 hours a day. There's no weekends. There's no off days, because even on your off days, like I mentioned to you now, it's planning for the upcoming opponents, is planning for every individual player that you have to see where are they currently, how are they improving. So it's just a level of work that's never ending. The best coaches that I've seen are the coaches that can plan their time well, because it's a bottomless pit, Mike. You never get to the end of your work in football. It's just a bottomless pit, and you can sink hours and hours and hours into anything within football. And it's just about how good are you as a coach, as a person, of managing what you're spending your hours into. And that's obviously spread amongst your technical team as well, which is why you'll see the trend of technical teams these days. You rarely ever see a single coach move by himself, because those years, I think, are going further and further away, because the workload is so huge. You just cannot manage it with one guy, So you'll see it now where more and more coaches are moving with assistant coaches, goalkeeper coaches, analysts. It's just a level of work that there's so much work that needs to be achieved, that you need to have that your staff and your support system around you, and also the synergy amongst people that you've worked with before, right? Because if Coach Fadlu and I, for example, we came into Simba, and within that first preseason, we're coming with a group of people that everybody knows what's their job, everybody knows what they're responsible for. So the level of work that you're able to get through with by having your staff with you who are all on the same workflow, or all on the same work process. I think the gains that you get from that are just so big.
Yeah. I know you're a big United guy. I mean, you've obviously been following Amarim coming in. I mean, I followed some of his comments when he first arrived at the club, and one of the things he said was like, he did more press conferences, he said, in the first week at United than he did in his whole time at Sporting. And then he's also saying like how he's like, when you come to this club, it's like, it's just, as you say, a bottomless pit. He's like, there's just so many moving parts to these big organizations. And I mean, you've obviously been at Pirates, been at Raja. These are big clubs, but I mean, he's going from Sporting to United. Sporting is a big club, and now you're talking about one of the biggest clubs in the world. I can only imagine like the stresses on these.
But that's why you need your team around you, because you need your vision to be implemented when you're not there. That's the most important thing, because you cannot be in all places at once. So when Amarim's in a press conference, when Amarim's in an interview, he needs to make sure that the planning and preparation that's taking place behind the scene is exactly what he would want if he was sitting at the table, you know? So I think that's that synergy that we speak about, why it's so important. But then it's a responsibility of him. It's a responsibility of a head coach to make sure that his ideas are clear, his ideas are transparent, because if somebody else is going to have to implement that for you at a certain point, you need to have shared that process, your process, out in a clear way. So that's the skill of these mega coaches at the moment. The guys who are working at the top level, they're really able to make their principles as clear as possible so that everybody in the environment can follow it, even when they are not in the environment, even when the head coach is not there. The rest of the support structure, the rest of the players, whoever's there, are able to implement that structure. So that's really the level that these guys are working at.
I know you were watching the game last night, Arsenal United. That corner is obviously going to be played out across world football over the next 6 months. I think you'll see every team trying it in some shape or form or another. How would you, as a defensive team, deal with that corner where there's basically just a whole host of blockers that are running basically blocks on guys, and it's just a good delivery into the near post? How as a coach are you thinking about dealing with something like that?
You know, the first thing that out of all these situations, when you discuss with people around, what would you do against this team, or what would you do against Pep? What would you do against these guys? It's like, we often miss the context of, okay, well, what do I have? What do I have to be able to deal with that? And I think that is always the step that is missed when we discuss these things. Like you can, yes, even in these coaching courses, Mike, when I'm telling you about, a coach can speak for hours about what we would do hypothetically in this situation, or what my philosophy is this. But what the most important thing is, like, what you have available to you. So, okay, I'm facing that type of corner, but do I have a bunch of Paseka Makos in my team? Or what do I have in my team to combat that? Because if I do have these level of players, then I have to do something completely different, right? If I have a bunch of giants, okay, well, then I might just try to challenge the ball zonally. But it's like, what do you have in your arsenal that you can use as weapons against the opposition as well? I think what you see in like European football at the moment, and something that we face in Tanzania, is completely different. So in European football, you almost always attack a corner against an opposition who are defending with 11 players. And your transition threats are from inside the box, right? Where in Tanzania, we'll often face coaches, they put 3 players standing on the halfway line, and now you have to manage, something that Steve Compella used to do.
The good old Steve Compella. that was Steve Compella. Yeah.
Steve used to do that in the league as well. So obviously these things are dynamic. Like you can only plan as much as what's at your disposal. That's how football is, in my opinion. You can have ideas and philosophies, but once you look at the players and what they're capable of, it doesn't help to have a plan here and an idealistic solution to things, but you don't have the weapons and the toolbox to be able to deal with it.
Yeah. You obviously have your finger on the pulse of football. You follow football so closely, but obviously the game sort of goes through trends, there was the Pep trend and everyone was trying to do this, trying to do that. It seems like at the moment the current trend, and it's obviously not across the board, but there's like Xabi Alonso's 3-5-2, Amarim is coming in with these 3-5-2. It seems like it's quite a popular shape at the moment. Like, is this like something you're seeing being rolled out across like world football at the moment? This is like the current trend that we're going through.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like, I think you have to just take it through, let's just theorize it, right, how we got here. So back in the day, we were probably most teams in a 4-4-2. in world football. Coaches then came across, well, how do I overload that 4-4-2 is by getting an extra number in the midfield. So let's go 4-3-3. So now we put 3 against 2 inside the box there. So like the natural progression now is teams are playing with a 3 in midfield. How can I overload them again? How can I get an extra number in there? And now it's going to this box midfield where we have a 6-6 and a 10. But where do I get that extra number from is now the real answer to how we are getting to these 3-1-6s, how we're getting to 2-3-5s or 3-2-5. It's either you are bringing someone into that box from below, so like a fullback stepping in or a centre back stepping into the midfield, or you are doing it, which is the most common way, is probably like a winger coming inside as a number 10. You'll see this throughout football, winger coming inside as a number 10, and then one of the fullbacks going high and wide, and one of the fullbacks coming in as a third centre back. That 3-2, like you were speaking about now. But it's just a natural progression of trying to overload the midfield, right? It's a natural progression of getting an extra player inside against the opposition. So obviously, like if we're starting to think in the future, what is the next progression to that? Is probably what Brighton do already. Under De Zerbi and Brighton under Herzola, that already they just pin with 2 wide players against your defensive line, and then they play a double false line. Brighton already getting 5 already in the midfield. For me, it's just a natural progression of how do we overload the midfield and get more possibilities to play possession against the opposition. That's just what it is.
Yeah. Do you think it's the death of 4-4-2? Will anyone ever play 4-4-2 again? Because honestly, there's been times where I've been with coaches over, like, say, the last 4 or 5 years where they've tried to play with like a 2-man midfield. And it's like, if you go 2-man midfield, almost 100% you'll either be against 3 or against 4 or against 5. And like just becomes impossible. I just don't see a situation where 4-4-2 ever exists again.
I just think football has progressed past that level of thinking of systems, right? Because, like I said to you maybe a little bit earlier, in that Nabi is well coached in all phases of the game. I think the phases of the game are broken up even more in football now. So maybe you defend in a 4-4-2 in the middle of the pitch, like in your zone 2 is maybe a 4-4-2, but maybe in your zone 1 it's now going into a 5-4-1. Maybe when you high press with a back 3 because you want your fullback to jump. Like the level of coaching is so far ahead now that when we think about football in like 4-4-2, this team plays 4-4-2. In which phase of the game do they play 4-4-2? And why in that phase of the game are they playing 4-4-2? That's probably even more important, is the why behind the setup of the team in a certain phase of the game. So maybe I'm 4-4-2 in that phase of the game because I want to force you in a certain direction so that I can jump as a pressing track. So that might be the reason for it. Or it might be because I want compactness in my lines in that phase of the game because you do this, for example. So like football is at the level now where it's just everything behind a decision has a reasoning behind it. It's not just like, oh, we play 4-4-2 because we play 4-4-2, you know? So I disagree with you. I think, yes, there is going to be 4-4-2 in football. There will still be, like, for example, Man City played 4-4-2
Just
out
in
of
what
possession.
phase of the game?
Yeah, they played 4-4-2 the other day. I can show you 1,000 clips of Man City playing 4-4-2.
Yeah, out of possession, 100%. Out of possession, you'll definitely fall into a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
But in possession, very rarely will you decide to have only 2 men in your midfield.
Yeah, depending on the game, that's what I think. Like, I think in certain moments, maybe you would want a 4-4-2. Yeah. If you have the characteristics of the players to do it, maybe you're trying to invite the opposition to press your 6-6, and then you want to overload their centre backs and play 1-1 against their centre backs. Why not? Maybe that would be your game plan, you know? So that could also be a 4-4-2 in an attacking shape. But it's just about, like, what is the intention behind it?
Yeah. Where do you find the balance? I've experienced this over my career, where you have coaches who very much want to develop their own style. This is the way that their team plays. And then when you get guys that are very much obsessed about counter tactics, how the other team plays and maneuvering their team and their players to play against a certain shape. Like, how do you prioritize your style, how you play? You talk about Brighton, you talk about Pep, you talk about Bayern Leverkusen, they have their style. But then you have guys that maybe they alter almost every game, almost like a game of chess, trying to counter tactics.
Yeah, I think that the balance is obviously for each coach and their personality is the way the greatest differences will come from. I strongly believe like your team needs to have its core principles that it works around. I strongly believe that those principles need to be flexible because you're playing against different oppositions all the time. So if you have the same principles and the same patterns of play that you're going to try, it's not going to work in modern football because of how advanced opposition analysis is these days. So if you're going to try to play certain patterns over and over again, it's not going to work. You're not going to be successful. So a lot of people will say the opposition is redundant because it's not about if they know what we are going to do. It's just how well we do what we're going to do. Yes, maybe back in the day where we didn't know exactly what you were going to do, but the level of planning and the level of detail that we know, if we watch enough games, we'll know exactly the intention behind those certain patterns. So I think that level of football has gone past, but I also think that it can get to a phase like you were speaking about now, where you don't let your principles come through, and you lose a big advantage in your team. Then you lose a lot of confidence in your system. You lose a lot of cohesion in your system because you're constantly changing to the opposition. So you lose out on what your strengths are. So I think it's always a balance, but I think the balance should always be weighted within your principles. The balance should always be weighted towards your style of play. So that's really why a preseason is so important in modern day football, right? Because the preseason is about getting your principles into the team. A preseason is no longer about getting fit. A preseason is about getting players educated on what we are going to do this season, getting players educated on who we are, what does our team look like. And then those principles have to be adapted throughout the season to what we face with our opposition, but we should still have those core principles against anybody that we play against. So yes, in this match, we might not force a player inside. We might force a player outside in this match, for example, but that flexibility within your structure should have been set up in the preseason already. So that's why preseason is like so important in any team at the moment. It's just that time to allow it, but you don't always get that luxury of having a preseason. So that's where it's still your responsibility.
I mean,
to train.
The average person who's listening to this thinking like, this is a lot of detail going into this kind of stuff. This is incredible. How do you impart that type of detail onto a team in such a short space of time when you don't have a big window? What does your week look like? If I just had to say you have one game on a Saturday, you've got Monday to Saturday. What does a week look like in terms of how you're structuring that?
You're giving me a full week. What a blessing. I get a full week. Normally it's 3 games a week.
No, I just want to illustrate to people that like the amount of detail and how much work you got to put in with guys when you do have the time.
Right. So I'll take maybe to set the tone already is that we are substantially away through the season where our team understands our core philosophy already, right? So it's not about me educating the team in this week. It's preparation week. In that preparation week, our team will always have main principles, sub-principles, and sub-principles. And this is where we spoke about knowing who we are. So all our players know in this phase of the game, in our attacking phase of the game, our main principle is to have superiority, in positional superiority. In our sub-principles, how do we go about creating those superiority is these certain sub-principles. And then sub-principles, which are individual actions, sub-principles, individual actions, sub-principles, small group actions, and main principle, the whole team action. So now, throughout our week, we will have so much information. And how do you break that information down throughout the week so that the players are able to assimilate to it? So you can have informal videos, Mike. So like what we will do is maybe have, while the players are having breakfast, we've got a video running in the background on the TV. Our analyst is maybe walking around there and saying, hey, did you see that? Or don't you think you could have done that differently? Maybe we are playing an opposition's game on the TV. Maybe we are playing our last game on the TV. But it's whatever we think is applicable to the week. We'll have that running in the background. We're encouraging the players to have, again, ownership, leadership in that environment to come to us and say, hey, I saw this. But we are giving them the platform. By putting it on the TV, we are creating that stimulus. So there'll always be that on each individual day throughout the week. There'll be a conditioning day where we are keeping our team at a level of fitness and improving the fitness throughout the season. So one day will be dedicated to improving our fitness that week. Another day or two might be down to individual improvement. So from our previous game, these are some actions that we need to improve on, or these are actions that were good, but it's our strengths, we have to improve on them. And then we'll break down an opposition attack day, an opposition defense day, set piece day, or like around our -1 and our game prep day. And then it's into the game. So it's not really like rocket science when maybe the average layman thinks about how do you break down a week of football. There's a lot of detail that goes into it, right? But how you break up that detail and how you in your environment get that into each and every player, how are you getting each and every player to peak performance by the end of the week? That's the art. That's where the best coaches make their money, right? In knowing that not everything can be done via the book. Like the book might say, This day is this, this day is this, this day is this. Okay. But what about your external factors at your environment? What about, oh, I can see the players are fatigued. If I try to have a tactical discussion today, it's not going to work. We have to adapt. So that's the main thing around planning for a week is you might have your structure around opposition attack, opposition defense, and set pieces, but the real best coaches are able to be flexible around that planning. The real best coaches see the environment and what the environment needs. Some days we don't need a video session, Mike. Some days we can come in and the environment is wrong for a video session. And while we've planned it and while everything is great on paper, I know that by looking in the player's eyes, I'm not going to get anything with this video session. So it's about having that feeling within your team, having that connection with your players to know that this video session needs this. Some days they need the coach to come in and be aggressive. Some days they need a light-hearted meeting, and that's the skill of being a coach. That's the skill of being a practitioner, because you don't learn this in the courses. I'll tell you that. You don't learn this on a UEFA. You don't learn this in a CAP or whatever course. You learn this by practical hours and seeing it and having this connection with the players. So this is the best part of having the week, is planning it is one thing, and then having the flexibility and having the connection with your players to get peak performance out. That's all we're looking for, is like, what is the best thing to do today to ensure that by the weekend we're ready for peak performance? What is the best thing to do today to ensure that over the season we are learning, over the season we are adapting? Because one thing is, like, over a season there's a lot of complacency that can set in at any point, Mike, because there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of, oh, we've seen this presentation before, oh, we've done set pieces last week, or, oh, I've seen this, a team, we played against them 2 weeks ago. So your job as a coach is to be creative. Your job as a coach is to keep everybody enthused when they come to work. We have to excite the players as well. And that's a large part of what I think coaching is lacking a lot of the times, is that we have our training sessions that we like. We have our video session for us. But it's not about you as a coach. It's about the players. It's about how can we create an environment where someone's excited to come to work. And if you're excited to come to work, you're going to put more intensity in. You're going to put more effort. You're going to learn more. You're going to get more out of the training sessions. So that's one of the things that we try to do, is to try to read our environment, try to make sure that our training sessions are enjoyable, try and make sure that we're always learning something in some way. But also, if the environment is not right for it, some days we don't need that video session that's going to put a lot of tactics into the players. We have to find another way to do it.
Yeah. Drew, we've been going for almost an hour here, and I think we could go for 5 hours, but it's been awesome, and I definitely want to keep catching up with you throughout the course of the season, because I'd love to track the journey on the way to more success with you guys. But before you go, just a couple of quick fire questions. You can give me 1-word answers or expand on something. I know you like to talk as well, so you can add any detail if you want to add. The best player you've coached?
How can you ask that? Best player I've coached?
Really, there's one.
No, impossible. Each have their own qualities.
Impossible.
So impossible.
Okay, I'll leave you to that one. It's very sitting on the fence. Give us the most underrated player you've coached. Someone that no one really gave credit to, but you as a coach saw a lot more than maybe the general public noticed.
Yeah, maybe Paseka Mako at Pirates. Incredible little player that nobody really saw him in a certain position, the way that we used him. Nobody really saw what he gave to the team, but really gave every single match with his heart and soul out on the pitch. So really incredible performances that he gave. At Raja, there was Yusuf Balamri, also incredible player, tactically and technically so above everybody on the field. Could see the next pass, could see the next action. There's a lot of players that I could mention that I've worked with that have these qualities, but like I said, these guys maybe didn't get the praise that they deserve.
Yeah. The toughest manager you've come up against tactically that challenged you the most in terms of their setup or maybe tactical changes they made throughout a game?
Difficult question. Yeah, really difficult. I think in Bortolo the last season, a lot of coaches that we came against, you're playing against Raja, right? So it's your tactical setup has to be different. Probably you're not coming to play against us and have the ball. We played against a team called Zemamra last season. The coach decided to do a full man-to-man press against us. So like man for man, ODG style. And it was really effective. It had been a long time since I played against Highlands Park. So it was going back into the memories to say, okay, how were we successful against Owen Dagama's, Shalulile, Mvala, these guys, man, marking us all over the pitch. So I think this was something like in recent history to come across a full man-to-man press all over the park. That was quite interesting for us to solve, to deal with. So that was really, really a good experience to come against.
Yeah. You obviously won that game.
Yeah, we won the game in the end, but okay, we had some solving to do in the first.
Yeah. Yeah. I always worry about those setups. Is like you do that, you plan for that, then say you guys score in like the first 2 minutes. And then it's like take your plan like out the window now.
I think we actually scored in the first 5, Mike, in that game, but it was still a difficult game in the end.
Sure. I mean, we played against Sundowns last season, and obviously we went there as massive underdogs. And I think our setup is like the number 10 to try and mark like Tebza, and like we literally just try to stop them. And we worked on this for like 10 days. There was like a FIFA break, and then we had Sundowns. We worked on 10 days. Literally, there were sessions like days where we never touched the ball. We just went like shifting. And then, like, in the first 5 minutes, Sipo and Bule hit the thing into the top corner from outside the box. And we all just looked at each other. It's like, they take your 10 days and, like, chuck it in the bin. Like, there we go. Let's find a way to get back in this game. It's
That's what I was saying to you. Like, it's all about, you can discuss around, philosophies and ideas and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like qualities of the players. When Sipo puts it in the top corner, he puts it in the top corner. Like, you can't plan for that. You can try to mitigate it as much as you can, but at the end of the day, that's the qualities of the players, right?
Yeah, 100%. The favorite stadium you've ever played in?
Benjamin Mkapa one. Full Benjamin Mkapa is something special in Tanzania. You have to see us playing in CAF, a full stadium at night. Incredible. In the daytime, even better, because just with the heat, just gives you such an extra element to play with. So definitely one. And I would say probably Orlando Stadium. No, not Kings Olatini. Unfortunately not. But I would say Orlando Stadium, just so many special memories there, so many seasons spent there.
Yeah. The coach that you had the biggest influence on you in terms of someone you watched as a young coach, sort of learning your trade?
Locally or international?
Internationally, someone you watch a lot, someone you've taken a lot of tips from, you watch their teams, you enjoy their teams.
Sure. I'm like, when it comes to this, I'm like always on a revolving train to see like what is new with new coaches and all of that. But probably like formatively was Maurizio Sarri. One, that his teams for me were just next level in terms of playing an attractive style of play. Like if you just think of how his Napoli team was, unbelievable. They were just probably the most exciting team to play against and to watch. I think Diego Simeone is probably like he's my idol. That Simeone is my number one, just in terms of creating a culture, being able to sustain that culture over time. Just a legend. What he's been able to achieve at Atletico is just top for me.
They are in Africa, yes or no? Do we need it? Is it even possible?
We had it in Morocco. We had it in the Botora last season, and for me, it's a must. For me, how it's managed, how it brings. Okay, there's certain decisions that take a little bit longer, but for me, how they manage in Morocco, super. Like effective decisions are done with enough time that you don't lose the intensity in the match. So yeah, it's a must for me. Space is standard around the world.
How do we get it? That's one thing where you actually say, like, Africa's got it right. Like, AFCON VAR was brilliant.
Super, yeah.
You saying in Morocco it was brilliant, like, and then you look in England and you look at the Euros and you're just thinking, how are they getting it so wrong while we're getting it so right?
I just think that the scrutiny in Europe is so huge. If anything happens wrong in Europe, it's just blown out of proportion. And then they said, just get rid of it or whatever. But if you look in Africa, for me, it's super. Like, they just did a real good job. Everything was done quick, timelessly. Top. For me, it just brings a level of that uncertainty around decisions and then frustration that you get in as a team. And so don't forget, I was at Maritzburg the season before we went to Raja, and there was a lot of decisions that we got frustrated with. So being in those situations, we were crying out for VAR.
Yeah. Sorry about that season. Sorry about how that ended.
Yeah. Those are lessons you learn, huh? I think I didn't speak to you for
last one. If
6 months after that.
I'm surprised you let us. Was it my goal that I scored, that world class cracker from 1 yard out? Last one, bro. If there's one rule in football that you could change, if there's anything in football, one rule you could change in football, is there anything you'd change?
Probably like the amount of stoppages you can make as a coach. Like there's only 3 opportunities to make subs. Probably I would change that and just say, like, because if you have an injury in the first half, if you have something in the first half that you have to make a sub with, now you've only got 2 opportunities to get players on the field, right? That limits the amount of opportunities you can give players, because maybe your second sub is 1 player or 2 players, and then you run out of those five substitutions quite quickly. I would just say like more number of stoppages allowed.
Yeah, I mean, if we're adding on unlimited stoppage time now, like, why do you really care about how long it takes or how many subs you allow? Because you're going to add on the time at the end anyway.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't become silly and this coach makes 1 sub, this coach makes 1 sub, one, and then we know what we're doing. So yeah, maybe just 4 or 5 opportunities, 2 in the first half, 2 in the second half, or whatever, something like that. But just increase the amount of stoppages.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time, man. It's been epic, and good luck for your game. Yeah, thanks, I hope you guys get that over the line, and keep up the good work in Tanzania, man. I'd maybe come visit you soon and see what you guys are up to there. I think
you have
doing
to come.
Some magic there, and
you have to come. You have to come for the derby. We're gonna have a derby next season. You can see Ramovic is playing against us. Will be a nice derby. Good coach. That will be a nice one for you. We'll come for one of our CAF games. Will be really good. But yeah, great work. Keep up what you're doing. I think you're doing something special for South African football, man. That's something that I have to say. It's definitely a space where we have to improve. The space where there's the work you're doing, and just keep it up. It's about bringing innovation and a new level of.
I want to stay in football, but I know that I don't have the ability and the obsession to coach the way you do. So it's about finding a space for me to live in and still be able to mix it with all my old mates and old friends and speak about the game that I love. So yeah, hopefully we grow it.
Yeah, definitely. But I think you're doing it in a really cool way, bro. So just keep it up.
So thank you very much. And let's stay in touch, and we'll be following closely, man. And I hope you guys get it over the line there. One for the South Africans.
Thanks, mate. We'll try our best.
Cool, mate.